Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Sam, and in today's video it is time once again for a monthly wrap up. I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in September. This was a crazy month for me. I feel like I barely read anything the first half of the month, and then I turned into an absolutely feral book reader the second half and wrapped up the month reading 14 books. Honestly, don't know how I did that, but let's just jump in and talk about the books that I read this month. Starting out the month, I finished off Daisy Hates the Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings. This is book 3 in the Magnolia Parks universe, and I ended up rating this 4.5 stars. I feel like this book is a lot of people's favorites, and for me, this is definitely the book that I have liked the least in the series so far. I feel like the Daisy Hates books are very fast paced. There's a lot going on. We have more POVs in the Daisy Hates books than we do in the Magnolia Parks books. So it adds like another level. There's a lot more going on. I like the sort of mafia crime family situation to these books, but I do feel like there's a lot of overlap between this book and book 3, Magnolia Park's A Long Way Home, and it just felt very repetitive. We're getting a lot of the same scenes from other people's point of view, and I did enjoy getting that side of things, finding out what's happening to the other people in the friend group and finding out what's going on and the reasoning behind some of the actions and events that took place in book 3. But like I said, it did feel very repetitive. But I do absolutely love the characters in this book and the growth that some of them are going through. I'm very intrigued to see what's going to be coming in the next Daisy Hates book, which I don't know when it's coming out. But I had a great time with this, but unfortunately it was not my favorite in the series so far. The next book that I read was a buddy read with bestie Emily, who will always be linked down below. We read Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I ended up rating this 4 stars. I had so much fun with this book. I thought this was a great fantasy romance first book in a series. The world is so interesting. I really enjoy all of our main characters, and I just wanted to keep reading and know what was coming next. In this book, we're following DM, whose mother went missing 6 months ago, and she's trying to figure out what's happening. She is part of the human city of this world, and the world is ruled by fays, and there's some conflict between the fae and human populations. And DM's mom has said that she is not allowed to go to the Fae castle, but with her mom being gone, she takes over her mother's duties, and she just learns a lot about herself and about the world. And I just cannot wait to continue the series. I will say that DM has a lot of denial in this first book, and by the end of it, it did get a little bit annoying. The next book that I read was Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is book 2 in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything necessarily special. I feel like I read this book very, very fast, and it's pretty thick. I definitely did not want to put it down. It's very, very easy to read. I also wanted more of our character's backstory. We kind of got thrown in the heart of everything, and I wanted, I don't know, maybe some flashbacks or some more bonding experiences or something. In the series, there are 3 brothers whose grandfather passed away, and their grandfather's inheritance has a clause for each of them, and they each have to fulfill some criteria in order to get their inheritance. So Declan has to marry and have a family before he's allowed to get his inheritance. And we also have Iris, who is Declan's assistant. It goes from there. I think everybody knows what is going to come out of this, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know, it was missing something for me. Wasn't super connected to the characters or the story. Next, I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I rated this 3 stars. This was also in a reading vlog that came out a couple weeks ago. I had a lot of fun with this, although it was definitely different to what I expected it to be. We're following Jordan, who it's her birthday and she was let off work early, so she tries to get in contact with her boyfriend who's supposed to pick her up. but he is nowhere to be found. And through some situations of Jordan's awful boyfriend, they end up having to move in with his dad. And it's a relationship with her and her boyfriend's dad. Understandably, this is a slow burn, but I kind of wanted more from Jordan and Pike's relationship. I feel like we didn't get a lot of build up or time to build like an actual foundation for them. There was a lot of times it was pretty cringy. Jordan is newly 19 and the age gap itself doesn't bother me, but Jordan felt very young at a lot of points, and it was just gross because of Jordan's age. I wish that she was a few years older. I guess they were both a few years older. It wasn't quite so, I don't know. I just didn't love Jordan. But overall, this was fun. Love a good taboo romance and definitely intrigued to read more of them. Next, Emily and I read Out of the Gate by Elsie Silver. This is a, I guess, prequel novella to the Gold Rush Ranch series. I ended up rating this 3 stars. This was not my favorite. In this novella, we're following Ada and Dermot, who are the grandparents of our male main character in book 1. The history was really weird. Ada felt so young and incredibly naive, and it just wasn't believable. It was a very physical romance, which didn't really make sense for their history. Obviously, novellas are difficult. I think this was only just over 100 pages. So obviously it's very difficult to get like a fully fledged out story, but if I feel like this book tried to do too much, like it really could have just been a cute meet cute between our 2 characters. The next book that I read was God Killer by Hannah Kaner. I enjoyed this. I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. This is a very short book. It's not even 300 pages, but it took me a very long time to get through. And we're following Kissin, who has a traumatic history with gods and ends up growing up and becoming a god killer. And I feel like it was slow to get into. It was hard to connect all the pieces together in terms of what was going on and the world. And through the story, she makes some unexpected friends and relationships. And I'm very curious to see what happens in book 2, but it's definitely took me a minute to get through. And I don't know, it's just difficult to explain, and I'm not sure why. I feel like I was slumping a little bit this month. I was having a lot of books that were good but not great. So in the beginning, middle of the month, I was definitely struggling through this. There was great disability and LGBTQ plus rep in this, so I would definitely recommend this book for that. I really enjoy the world. Like I said, very excited to continue the series, just not sure what else to say about it. The next book that I read was Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This was another 4-star for me and is also in a reading vlog from a couple weeks ago. I had a fantastic time with this book. I really enjoyed the gothic mystery setting. We're following Signa, who death has followed her entire life and seems to have taken everyone who was close to her until she ends up at this manor and is trying to figure out what's going on. People say that it's haunted, and just the friendships and relationships that are formed in this book. I had so much fun. I love the gothic fantasy setting. This is kind of Bridgerton vibes in that there is balls and courting, and I honestly cannot wait until I get my hands on book 2. I just love these characters so much, and I've heard not the best things about Foxglove, but Wisteria I've heard phenomenal reviews for, and I cannot wait to just get the rest of the series. There was definitely a lot of twists and turns in this book that kept me guessing. I didn't know what was going on. There was some things I did guess, but overall I did not see it coming. This was so much fun. The inclusion of Death as a main character was very interesting, and his quotes were everything. The next book that I read was Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. This is part of a collaborative series, but I think they're all interconnected standalones. So I have not read any of the other books, but I did read this one because I do enjoy Christina Lauren, but unfortunately this is only a 3-star for me. I feel like this was a copy-paste Disney Rapunzel story just set in the modern world. It was extremely predictable. Like the nods to Rapunzel were fun, but I wanted, I don't know, something more. I just didn't feel connected to any of our characters or believe in their relationship. It was definitely cute. I had a good time reading it and I read it very quickly. It just didn't feel like anything special. And overall, it just felt very surface level. We didn't get much into the character's backstory or elaborate on any of that. It was just very like, this is what's happening at this given moment, and that's it. The next book that I read was My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy this. This was a cute, fun read. It was nothing like super deep or insightful. Cute, fun time. Again, felt very surface level. I didn't love our female main character, Cassie, but Frederick was hilarious. I regularly laughed out loud to his notes and mannerisms. There was a lot of Buffy references in this book, which I loved as a huge Buffy fan. In this book, we're following Cassie, who is in desperate need of a new apartment, and she finds this ad on something equivalent to Craigslist essentially, where there's this beautiful room for rent for $200, and she's like, there's no way this is going to be $200. This is going to be some sketchy arrangement. But she goes and meets up with a guy who is renting this room because she really needs to catch a break, and ends up moving in, and it goes from there. And obviously by the title, he ends up being a vampire and sort of helping him try to adapt to the 21st century. And it's just so cute and funny. And it was so much fun until we got to the third act conflict, and it fully came out of nowhere. It made no sense. It was too fast and easily tied up. I wish there was something else. Overall, a cute, fun fall read, and I'm definitely glad that I read it, and I am interested into reading book 2. Next, Emily and I did another buddy read and we read A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver. This is book 2 in the Gold Rush Ranch series, and this was an easy 5 stars for me. This is pushing it for my favorite Elsie Silver book, hands down. In this book, we're following Violet, who is the new jockey for Gold Rush Ranch, and she's definitely battling with some imposter syndrome in the way that she got into her dream career. And we're also following Cole, who is the brother to our main character in book 1. And he is also another owner of their, I think, mining side of the company. And he ends up having to move down to Gold Rush Ranch to oversee some project that is closer to the ranch than his apartment in the city. The mental health and trauma, like, representation in this book hurts, but it's done so well. I love their backstory and just their lives in general. I love their banter, as always. Elsie Silver does amazing banter. I just really connected to these characters, especially Violet, and I just love this book so much, and the series, and Elsie Silver. So if you need a sign, take this as your sign to pick up any of Elsie Silver's books. Almost all of the rest of these books are going to be in an upcoming reading vlog, so I don't want to spend too much time on them. But the next book that I read in September was On the Line by Naomi Loud. This is a dark-ish contemporary romance. I ended up rating this 4 stars. In this book, we're following James, who comes from a very wealthy family, but her dad will not pay for her schooling unless she switches her major back from arts degree. And so she goes off on her own for the first time and gets an apartment and a job in order to pay for said apartment, where she ends up working at a restaurant and meeting Ozzy, who is a line cook. This book was a lot more physical than I anticipated, and I definitely don't have anything against that, but I do wish that there was more of an emotional connection. I wish we had more conversations between our 2 main characters about each of their backstories and the traumas that they're going through, which each of their backstories is definitely made out to be a pretty large part of the plot and what our characters are going through, but nothing is necessarily elaborated on that front, and I feel like it was wrapped up as an afterthought. So I just wanted a bit more from the emotional side. But this was definitely a fun, darker contemporary romance that explored healing through their physical relationship I guess. The next book that I read was actually an audiobook, and I listened to Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. This is book 2 in the Sacred Stones series. I didn't love a ton of Onyx, but this book was definitely a step up. I really enjoyed it. I definitely forgot a lot of what happened in book 1, but I was able to pick it up fairly well. I definitely think that there's some holes that I am missing, but overall, I caught up, I think. I feel like in this book we got a lot more character growth and self-reflection, which I really appreciated. I really enjoyed how we got to see more of this world, and it was sort of a little adventure plot, which was a lot of fun. I feel like some of the conflicts wrapped up a little bit easily, but with everything that was going on in this book by the end, I overall really enjoyed it. As soon as I finished that audiobook, I needed book 3 to be out immediately, and I'm just counting down the days until I can listen to the next book. As I don't want to talk about this book too much or give really anything away because it is the second book in a series, but if you're on the fence about continuing, I would recommend listening to the audiobook. I think the narrators did a great job. I do feel like I had less shock value in some points because I was listening to it and wasn't putting 100% of my attention into it. Overall, a great time, and the audiobook was very well done. Okay, 2 more books to go. The next book that I read was The Ashes and the Starcursed King by Carissa Broadbent. I ended up rating this 4 stars. This is the second book in the Nightborn duet in the Crowns of Naxia series. I was really interested to see what was going to happen after the events of book 1, and I feel like this book just dragged on a little bit too much. I really enjoyed the first half of this book, but it ended up being really repetitive. I found our female main character to be pretty stubborn, but this also did a very good job with the discussion of grief and how that can impact your life, especially in the events of this book, when our characters have to continue to reflect back on it and be like, have it in their face. I feel like the end to me was pretty predictable and included some elements of fantasy books that I really don't enjoy, and it kind of took away the shock value for me. So unfortunately didn't love this one as much as book 1, but I still really enjoy this series overall. It's a lot of fun. I love this world. I love vampires, and I can't wait to read the next book. Hopefully I can read this Slaying the Vampire Conqueror before the next book comes out, because I think that has to do with the world and maybe the next duology. And then the last book that I read in the month of September was Collide by Val Cabra. This book was kindly gifted to me by bestie Emily, so thank you so much, Emily. I ended up rating this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Very much your typical college romance. It's a very physical romance where our main characters meet because Summer has to do a sports psychology assignment in order to complete her application for grad school. So she gets paired with Aiden, who is a captain of the hockey team, and there's some trauma in Summer's life relating to hockey, so it's kind of a rough start. But then the pacing of this book gets kind of weird, and their relationship doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But I do love sports romances and college sports romances because of the friendships and found family that are in sports teams in romance books. Just their little hockey family is so cute, and I love how easily the entire hockey team always brings in the female main character. It's just a lot of fun, and I did really enjoy this book, even though the pacing was a little strange, but I'm very excited to continue the series. And that is all the books that I read in September. It was a very chaotic reading month, I feel like, but definitely a mixed bag as well of different genres and themes. Please let me know what your favorite book that you read in September was. I would love to chat with you. If you did like this video, please give it a like so that I know. And I really hope that you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.